swearing in before we start with the pledge and the prayer. So it's my privilege to swear in Mr. Nicholas. Well, do you go by Nicholas?
Yes.
Or Nick? Both?
Yeah.
Okay. Nicholas Wells, if you would please come on up here. All right, if you would raise your right hand and repeat after me. Well, and first I will state this, and then I will have you repeat after me. It says, Union City Police Department Certificate of Appointment. This is to know that all men by these presents that I, Chad Spence, Mayor of Union City, by virtue of the power vested in me by the state of Indiana and the city of Union City, Indiana, do hereby appoint Nicholas Wells to the position of Reserve Police Officer for the city of Union City, Indiana. So if you would, for the oath, please repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Indiana, and the ordinances of the City of Union City, Indiana, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of control of the City of Union City, Indiana. So help me God. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
For those watching, if you're curious at all, yes, there is a connection here. So he is the proud son of our chief, and we're very thankful to have him aboard. And much as small communities do, we have a lot of family serving in various departments, and that's the way it works in a small community, but we're very blessed by that. So, welcome. And if I'll go ahead and have you sign here, because I know your family, you're welcome to stay for the council meeting. You're absolutely, but I can see the head shaking already. So, Nick, if you want to come on up here.
I would venture to guess it's not going to be short just because there's one thing on the legit.
Yeah. And I will have you sign it. You get a nice copy.
I'm telling them I can't leave. Yeah. One way to get someone.
There, I'll get a new one.
City ordinance, every person in town is required to attend a city council meeting once a year.
There you go.
Not on the same day.
Facebook Live's good.
You gotta make a schedule out, sign up.
So you get to enforce that. That's the.
No thanks, no thanks. Nick.
Low man.
And you guys need him to give a speech or something?
That's what I thought.
It's right after yours.
So did your pictures look exactly like this, like 20 years ago? All right, well, once again, thank you so much.
Thanks for your time, guys.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for your service. Looking forward to
Yes,
working with you.
Thank you.
Taking out half the room.
Also,
More than that.
my understanding is
You guys
we've
are
got a new
outstanding.
homeowner too.
Yes.
Nick, did you buy a house too? So roots are down. Roots are down. Here,
Thanks again.
congrats, good work.
Thank you.
All right, with that, everyone, if you would please rise for the pledge and remain standing for the prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Heavenly Father, we find ourselves in a season of loss. I feel like we've had a lot of citizens that we've lost here recently, and some affected right here in this very room by our own loved ones in this very meeting who've lost someone very dear to them. And in this season, we know that you're near the brokenhearted, and we thank you for that. When the society would have us think that you're near and or you're far, you're distant, you're actually running away, you're not. You're actually moving toward those who are hurting. You've never been closer. And we thank you for that. And we pray for your continued guidance and strength and comfort upon all those in this community who mourn the loss of loved ones. We pray that they absolutely, through you, find a peace that surely surpasses all understanding. We pray for your wisdom and your guidance tonight. Help us make decisions. I know I pray this every time, Father, but we really do need your wisdom and guidance to help us make decisions that are not for our own self-interest or any one particular self-interest, but yet for this community as a whole, and that it be a reflection of you in everything that this community does and says and even thinks. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, Jan, if you would, roll call.
Brandon Elmore,
Present.
Bob Leahy,
Here.
Nathan Conklin,
Present.
Tim Heiss,
Here.
Tito Frias.
Here.
All right. I trust you've had the opportunity to review the consent agenda. Do I have any questions or comments? Yes?
I do. I just wanted to note that there is actually an error. I'm sure no one noticed except me. There's an error in the section regarding Ordinance 2022-01, the ordinance to increase the number of Board of Works members from 3 to 5. The minutes read, all ayes were received 5-0. Unfortunately, that is incorrect.
Oh, on the second motion, correct.
No, on the first. I mean, on the
First was, but the second was 4-1.
on the motion to go for the second
Right.
to wait a minute.
The motion for second reading
to
was
suspend the rules.
Yeah, that was all an aye as well.
Actually, I did not say aye.
Yeah, you
That is
Um,
incorrect.
On the,
Now,
It had to be
As-
all five.
And we could not have moved to the second vote.
well, I apologize that I did not speak up quickly enough. But in fact, we forgot to ask for those opposed. I would have said nay because there was some opposition to the expansion of the Board of Works among the public. There is some opposition to increasing the number of unelected city officials, et cetera, et cetera. That's why, even though I agreed with the reasoning and voted yes on the first reading, I voted no on the second. So I just wanted to make that
Okay, hold on.
clear.
You voted no on the suspend the rules?
I voted no on the second reading.
Yes.
Okay. I
Which that
thought I
reflects.
put the-
Yeah, we
the
That, and that's correctly reflected.
Right.
If you
But
voted
what's
no on the
incorrectly-
suspension of the rules, we would have never got to the second reading.
Is that right?
Because it had to have been
That is
unanimous.
1,000.
So I apologize to the public. I should have raised my.
I do have a
What's
question.
wrong with
No, there's nothing wrong with it. It's correct as presented in the minutes. I do have a question. Why is there an opposition to more voices being heard from the community that are not elected positions?
Part of it is just expense. The people that have voiced that just don't. I mean, we're like, wow, we're gonna pay another an elected city official. I think that's really the biggest one. The rest is my conjecture, but that's the
No,
one
sorry.
that people.
Because for years I've always heard that there's not enough representation, and then when we add representation, then it's not. there's a concern with that. So it caught me off guard. It really.
You know, people wanted maybe if it were possible to elect that person.
Yeah,
I mean, I
that's
know
not-
it's not,
yeah,
but
that's
that's
not
what people
possible.
were.
Right. So, alrighty. Any other questions or comments? If not, I would hereby entertain a motion for approval.
Hold on a second, Bob's got a question.
Sorry. And
John,
Bob,
something?
and Bob beat me to the $6,500 garage door in the
Oh yes, yeah, on the email.
expenditures. There was a metal roofing for the park for $44.28
That's
and change.
That's the covered bridge that we are in turn diverting that to the shelter house that's been missing a roof for years now. You know, the one up on the hill?
The one
Yeah, I don't know my numbers still. I only know the number one shelter house. It's number 6,
five or
Five?
six. It's one
somewhere thereabout. The one on the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6.
The one that's been torn down?
Well, the roof has been removed,
Yeah.
but the whole structure's still there. Well, half the structure's still there. Community K.I.S.S has volunteered to supply the funds to get it rebuilt. And so we've already got the roof from the covered bridge.
I guess
Now, let
I'm-
me say that. That was the
I'm
roof that was
I'm
purchased.
confused
Yeah,
because-
it was the roof that was purchased by Community K.I.S.S
Right,
for the covered bridge,
right. Prior to the donation.
prior to the donation of Goodhue.
Okay.
Mm.
I
So
forgot about that.
Yeah, so, the Community Christmas, well, Anita Answell and Larry asked, so, well, since we're not using that and we bought it, and they couldn't return it because it was already cut, they said, can we be comp for it? In which they covered the rest of the cost for the covered bridge, so we said, yeah, that makes sense. Since we know we're gonna use it on something else, or we can use it for something else, and that's what we're gonna use on the enclosed shelter, or not enclosed shelter, the shelter number 6, up on the hill.
One on the hill,
Yeah.
Right.
So it's been, like you said, it's been missing a roof for quite some time. So that's what that's for.
Regardless how you play the shell game, we basically got a healthy donation that
Yeah,
supplanted a lot of
Right.
material.
yeah, you're right.
The-
Yeah, because I mean, the expense to, thanks to, and I'll publicly say this, thanks to the Department of Natural Resources not getting back with us quicker, the Community Christmas was outed another, was it 10 to
No.
14,000, or what
No,
was
it
it?
wasn't quite that much.
Was it about
It-
8?
but it-
No, it was somewhere, it was high. Because.
These numbers have changed so much back and forth over the last 2 years that my head kind of spins. But
Forgets which one it is.
it probably was, let's just say it was about half again, about 50% higher than what it should have been.
Okay. Which would have been about 7 or 8, because I think it was supposed to be like 14 or 15,000 originally,
Yeah.
and it ended up being like 22 or 23. Is what Community Christmas had to shell
It
out for the
wasn't double,
materials.
but it was
It was-
half again at least, if
Yeah.
not more.
It was painful, is what it was.
Yes, it was.
Because that's something else really nice that they could have used it for, you know, and that since the Department of Natural Resources dragged their feet on getting us the approval, all the cost of the material went up, skyrocketed in that process.
And if they would have thrown, we could have speculated on purchase, but if they would have thrown a wrench in it and said, you can't do it this way, and then it would have caused a problem with, material already allotted to it. It's just,
You know,
2 questions for clarification.
mm.
The roof metal for the covered bridge is already purchased?
It was before Goodhue
Okay.
even stepped in.
And
Yeah.
Good use
Is
step,
it really usable for that shelter house?
yeah.
The measurements are gonna work out?
Well,
Usually.
There's probably gonna be some cutting that needs done, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's just, they're,
Okay.
well,
standard
it's, I
long
think
sheets.
there's 18 feet, I believe,
Mhm.
so there's, yeah.
there's definitely gonna be cutting done because the roof, the
Yeah.
way, yeah.
It looked like a
Do
spider
you
web.
have,
Right.
do you have a design,
That's what Dave's working on for us.
is Dave work, okay,
Yeah.
I'm just kinda curious to see what,
Yeah, because I tried like gangbusters to go through. Tom didn't. Roger Kearns and Cloy Smith built that.
yeah.
And I tried like gangbusters for about a year to try to find the original prints of it. And Tom goes, I think my dad probably has it somewhere, but unfortunately he was not in a state where he could.
Yeah.
Yeah. And unfortunately we just lost him.
Yeah,
So.
we just lost him.
So yeah, we're back to square one, and it'd be a shame for it to just sit there as it is, and then somebody could say, well, why don't we just knock it down? Well, then that's gonna be more cost,
Yeah.
and we lose a
And then you lose
bit of a landmark of the
Yeah,
park.
yeah.
Because
No, the rest,
Can they
what's-
go, there's gotta be some pictures or something they could possibly
I
do
think
a little recreating.
I had Gina get on Facebook, because I'm not on Facebook, I said, can you get on Facebook and see if somebody, and all of a sudden she had these pictures, so I think it was Rusty Zimmers, or one of the Zimmers,
Yeah,
sent her
Rusty
like
had
5 or 6
Yeah,
pictures.
Yeah, Rusty has.
And I forwarded those straight on to Dave. So yeah, they've got and there's one in Michigan, and I don't know where at Michigan, and maybe Tom does remember. There's one in Michigan just like it. There's only 2 like this supposedly in the nation,
Yeah.
and it's got a sister one somewhere in Michigan, built just like it.
The tough part is that it creates a real drainage problem, the way it was designed.
Because everything goes into
As far as
one
roof
point.
drainage.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a real
Could you
problem.
change the angle of the roof, maybe?
Yeah, it was pouring in instead of,
Let it
Yeah.
pour out
Ah,
instead
okay.
of pour in.
One more point of clarification I was hoping to get. I know that Board of Works talked about the 6,500. I know there was an email sent out, so
Yeah, right.
I wanted to make sure that I didn't hear anybody. Imagine it was said, I just wasn't listening, sorry.
Yeah, Steve, if you want
For
to.
what?
The door on the court door.
Yeah, I'm not sure what was recorded on what you guys saw, but basically the walk-in entry door was basically fixed and effectively replaced, and a new entry system because the locking mechanism had completely failed. And then 2 years ago, the fire department replaced one of the overhead 12-foot by 12-foot overhead doors and framed it in, put windows in it, and metal siding insulated the whole thing. Well, the court, because they had some funds that they felt like they could invest in the building, did the second door, the middle door, and that's why it was 6,500. Now I think Christie.
It just needed to be a more elaborate
Yeah,
description.
I think
Right.
when
That
she
works.
just entered it, I think she only typed entry door or something like that,
Yep.
and it,
And
It
kudos to
didn't.
Bob, because Bob caught it right away. And Bob's like, I just spent $500 for a new door at the, was it
Preservation.
yeah,
They had that old door that was, just coming apart
okay.
on the sidewalk.
And rightfully
Yeah, they-
so, you see something that's like, I don't know, what is that, 7 times that or whatever? I can see where it caught your attention, so.
Yeah.
yeah,
Appreciate that.
it was a lot more work than.
There's, a
Yeah,
lot more than just
so,
that door,
but-
yeah, there's.
I agree, it did look a little weird, but I think it was just the way it was typed in there.
Anything else? If not, I would now entertain a motion for approval on the consent agenda.
I will move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Do we have a first, do we have a second?
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Consent agenda approved as presented. We're very fortunate to have a special guest this evening. As you see, we have a presenter on the agenda, and Mr. Eldon Solomon with the Journey Home. Eldon, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Mayor, I appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
Gentlemen, thank you for letting me be here. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. Thank you. Okay. So, this is the first time I've been here in front of the City Council of Union City to present to you the Journey Home. I'm asking for some funds to help us get through this year. We have usually gone to the mayor for sponsorship for our events. The need for help from the cities that we work with and we work with them is greater this year than ever. But before I get into that, I kind of really, because it's the first time I've had a chance to visit with you, kind of give you an idea of what the Journey Home is. Now, you might say, well, I know what it is, and the Journey Home started 7 years ago and opened our doors to veterans in 2014, but it has changed a great deal. So what I've done is just kind of put together some slides with some talking points. We started out in 2014 as a shelter for veterans that are homeless or suicidal with drug addiction, and it's totally donations supported. In 2015, we were able to pick up a contract with the VA, develop a VA relationship, a contract relationship with the VA for our facility, and from that springboard, we have launched into other areas and have really kind of pushed our agenda around our mission to end veteran homelessness. And that is our mission. And we have several strategies that relates to that mission. And you'll see in the first page, this page right here, a transitional facility is just one of those strategies. The very top strategy, as you'll see, it might surprise you, is the strategy of education and awareness. This is really important because we are a premier veteran outreach organization. And I hear very often when I talk about helping veterans and outreach and create awareness, is the first thing I hear a lot of times is, why isn't the government doing more? They should do more. And I've heard from other councils, this isn't our problem, it's the veterans, the government. And my comment to you is that my pushback all the time, and I'm not saying, gentlemen, you're saying this, but let me just kind of give you my pushback. The government's doing a lot. They don't do it well sometimes. Don't get me wrong. Matter of fact, they screwed up a lot, and don't get me wrong. But they do it a lot. They do a lot. There is no population in this country that has better access to care than veterans. We have a VA system in Dayton, we have a VA system in Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, Marion, and I as a citizen, as a civilian, can't purchase insurance to cover what they cover. And we ask for every year about $500,000 to keep our facility open, and they give it to us willingly every year. They do it, and so they do a lot. So our education and awareness is what can we do as a community. The money that I'm asking for isn't for our facility. We don't need your help on the facility. We get that help from the VA. But there are, you know, some of the numbers that I'm going to give you. I want you to understand I've been a part of this process for almost a decade, and they haven't gone down at all, despite how hard we've been working. 17 to 25%, oops, said it wrong. 17 to 25 veterans every day commit suicide. Now, that's what the research shows. Is it 17, 25? I don't care. It's just a lot. That's a lot. They commit suicide every day. 37,000 veterans in this country are homeless. Represents about 8% of the total homeless population in this country. That's just the numbers that they can count. They don't count the homeless veterans or homeless population in rural America. Do you know why? Don't know where they're at. Don't have a clue. On January 24th of every year, the coldest day of the year, the federal government goes to known places, shelters or food, soup kitchens and other locations where they know the homeless are, and they will count them physically and obtain demographics. But in rural America, like Union City or Randolph County, we don't have shelters. We don't have food kitchens. We don't have those places that the rural veterans that are struggling go to. So the federal government has labeled that population. You know what they have labeled that population? The hidden homeless. I don't say that derogatively. And what's really, really frustrating is that we don't know how to find them. And that's where our focus of as a journey home has been. If we're going to end veteran homelessness, it's much bigger than just getting the 37,000 off the streets. So our strategy is to create awareness to let you all know that our veterans are in trouble. 1,400,000 veterans, 37 times more than those who are homeless, are at risk of becoming homeless. 1,400,000. And so when we look at the whole strategy to end veteran homelessness, we have to address the suicide issues, the homeless issues, and also those are at risk. The ones that are at risk are the most important, because if we don't stop that number, we're going to continue to feed that pool of homeless. And how do we find them? Because it's right here. We don't, and especially rural America, the veterans that are at risk go to the same churches you go to. They're your neighbors. They shop at the same stores you go to. They go to the same doctor's offices you go to. So creating awareness that veterans are private, they're isolated, they're guarded, they're restrictive, and is just really important. So that's, when we say that we're an outreach program, that's what we're doing. We have a transitional facility. We have 15 beds. As of today, I heard that we have all 15 beds full. And we have a housing retention program services that goes out into the community, locally, regionally, and all over the country, looking for veterans that are at risk and helping them obtain services and link them to services. And part of that local, regional, and national outreach services is our crisis and disaster relief services. We'll go, if we find veterans that are in crisis or in a disaster, we mobilize our response team, a veteran response team, and go to those locations. For example, your dollars that this community supported the Journey Home last year. We spent 5 weeks in Louisiana after Hurricane Ida and helped 52 veterans recover from their services. So when I talk about we're a nationally premier, we're nationally recognized in what we do, that's exactly what we are. There's some on the next page. What I want you to understand is that our mission to end veteran homelessness has to include other issues besides just the homeless. 10% of those the homeless veterans have a substance abuse disorder. 66% have a substance abuse misuse challenges. Depression, again, I'm giving the numbers. 17 to 25 commit suicide daily. 4.2% of that suicide rate is higher in the rural populations than in metropolitan and urban. This sits right in our backyard. 20% live below the poverty line, and 47% pay over half of their income on housing. 53% are disabled. 45% suffer with a mental illness. And the one issue that I think is really important that's in the national data is that 66% more served in the military more than 3 years, and 33% were stationed in war zones. Our veterans are in trouble, and we can't find them unless we get some help from the community. So the money that I'm asking for is to help us get back into the community so that we can do our outreach services that we have been. So the last 2 years, COVID has really hit our revenue. 80% of our operating revenue comes from the VA, and it's paid on a bed per diem rate for our facility. COVID has decreased our bed census by 40% for the last 2 years. This is the first time we've had 2 months in a row of 14 to 15 beds full since March of 2020. That means we've lost about 40% of our revenue, and we've had to decrease our community outreach services because we aren't able to, we want to keep our doors open and those kind of things. So there's a need this year to help the journey home recovery in ways that we've never asked before. The next page is I want you to show what our 2021 outreach efforts have done. We're very proud of this. Gary, I'm not sure if you've seen this yet. You'll see it next month. We're very proud of this. 191 veterans were helped by the journey home in 2021. 65 of those veterans came out of our transitional facility, and that transitional facility helps veterans from all over the country. The rural population, the homeless population is a transit population. We have a veteran transportation service to veterans anywhere in the area, that if they need to go to a medical appointment from Dayton to Indianapolis to Marion to Fort Wayne, we have 3 vans that we transport, and we pay other veterans to take them to those appointments. We helped 18 veterans last year in the community, which I think is pretty low. It needs to be higher, quite frankly. That's where the education awareness comes into play. Attend 185 appointments. We helped 56 veterans out in the community that were struggling that were at risk of becoming homeless, and with over 1,835 contacts, individual contacts. And then we helped 52 veterans in Louisiana lift them up after a crisis. We provided 272 hours of crisis interventions and helped those veterans apply for over $200,000 worth of benefits. We do a really good job, and so I have no problem asking you for help. And a good example in terms of what we do is in the last page. I give you those statistics that I give here, but the VA, in order for us to maintain our contract, they require us to reach a standard of care, a performance standard. And that means that 55% of our veterans that we get that come into our facility, they want us to place positively 55% of the veterans into housing, which I think is pretty low. But it also tells you how tough that population is. And then they want us to be able to only negatively discharge veterans at 20%. So what that means is that over 55% needs to be housed or in treatment, and we can't kick out more than 20% of the veterans that we work with. We're called a low barrier facility, which means we have a low barriers to get them in, and we have the same low barriers to kick them out. So that's the national average. In 2021, our performance standards was 76% positive discharge and 5% negative discharge. We do a really good job. 21% higher than the national average for the positive discharge rate is pretty good, is really good. But we add that to, we only kick out 5%, have to kick out 5% of our veterans, says that we've dialed in really well and we know what we are doing, which is why when you look at the numbers of 191 veterans that we helped, we're able to help a lot of veterans because we know how to help We know how to work with veterans, we know how to talk with them, and I could tell you story after story after story that how effective we are out in the community of helping. So I'm asking the city of Union City today for, I told Mayor Chad Spence that I'd ask for 5,000, but I'll take more. I'll take more.
Is it all right if we ask the question?
You ask me all the questions you want.
And this is kind of some curiosity, but also it would help awareness. Are these 65 homeless veterans that came off the streets, are they from locally? Did they just end up here?
They just ended up, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we go back to what I said. The homeless population is a transient. So obviously they came through the pipeline of local agencies.
Okay.
Hospitals, doctors, or they just knocked on our doors, or the VA. But very few of them would tell you that they're from in Indiana in general. And what I also want to tell you is that about 60% of those veterans stay locally.
That's good.
Which means that, when I say locally, Randolph County, Darke County, those just our surrounding counties, which means that in a very real sense, we're increasing the population of Randolph County. We're putting taxpayers back into the community. They're going to the grocery stores. They are adding to the community in very positive ways. Not all of them, but most of them.
That's actually probably the better number, the 60% to stay.
Yeah.
And this is just a public service announcement. What is the phone number for these people to call that are watching? Because we up here know people and we can tell people, but I know we get 1,000 or so views.
Awesome.
So
yeah,
I don't know if it's a week or every other week. Sometimes it's 6,000. It's crazy, whatever happens.
So we are really big on social media.
Okay.
Everybody can go to our Facebook page, The Journey Home. There's more than one Journey Home, so look for the Journey Home in Winchester, Indiana. I call it a feel-good page. Whenever we need something from the community to help veterans, we get on there and we tell stories where you'll see more awareness issues, social awareness issues, and I'm getting ready to get on there this week to promote an event that the American Legion and business owner in Portland is doing for us. But our Facebook page is a good place to understand what we're doing, how we're doing it. Our webpage is www.journeyhomevets.org. www.journeyhomevets.org. A lot of information there about what the homeless issues is. You can donate online. We're on LinkedIn as well. We have back to our Facebook page, we have over 4,000, about 4,200 followers on our Facebook page, so it's a very active page. And then our phone number is 765-595-8297. My phone number, I'm the CEO, is 765-546-1085. And we're transparent. We'll answer any question you ask.
That was very thorough. That's better answer we get from a lot of people, so I'm happy. Where's the next closest one of these? How far are we from another support center?
Yeah. First, very good question. So if you were to think about the Northern Indiana healthcare system, which is Fort Wayne and Marion, the next VA medical center is Dayton, and then over on the west side is in Indianapolis. Okay. Randolph County sits at the corner of both of those other, and we are the only veteran outreach organization, transition facility, disaster relief in rural Indiana, period. The VA loves our services a lot because of where we are located. There is a lot of our veterans that come to us will come to us because we're in a rural community. Now there's some that will say, no, I don't want to go to a rural community, but a lot of them who are struggling with addiction issues or other issues want to get away from a Fort Wayne or Dayton or Marion or whatever and want to come to Randolph County. And what's also nice about the Journey Home is that we become a drop-in center for those veterans. So yes, we do bring individuals that do cause problems, but the Journey Home maintains relationship with those veterans. So what I want the Union City to know, if you have one of our veterans and you get phone calls to a lot, the police, call the Journey Home, we will help you manage those issues. And so a lot of the veterans that stay here will stay here for two reasons. One, the community is wonderful. I cannot say enough about how much the community loves veterans. And two, the Journey Home is there. It becomes a community for them, and they stay right there. Did I answer your question? I got off on tangent there, Nate.
That was good.
All right.
I have a question for Jan. ARP funds apply to this?
Art funds?
Mental health and awareness of the community.
Well, I would think, just like the other thing we donated to, CAC.
Try to have a spirit.
I think it would fall under the
Correct.
same thing.
How much money do you guys use on an annual basis? I'm not saying we're going there, but I'm just,
Oh, no.
just for clarification purposes.
Our budget this year
Nate
is
wants to buy a
just,
year.
is just shy of, just over 700,000.
How much are you trying to, like, this outreach campaign that you're talking about here? What is your goal? Like,
Our
total?
goal is 250,000 for
250,000.
the year. Mhm. Our outreach services, unlike the veterans, unlike the facility, is funded strictly by philanthropic grant donations, sponsorships, those kinds of things.
And the 250,000 is what you're trying to raise from the community, from individuals, municipalities.
Yeah, absolutely. And quite frankly, all over the world. What's so really wonderful about the Journey Home is that 65% of all of our social media followers are outside of Indiana and Ohio. When we ask for, like, one of the things that we're doing this year that we haven't done before is that we've only spent about $5,000 a year on groceries, and we keep our kitchen and door open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So a lot of our groceries come from there, from the community. This year, we want to spend zero. So we're asking people, we have a relationship with Walmart, we're asking people to purchase groceries for us. And we got a message today from a person in California that spent about $200 at Walmart and told us to go pick it up at 3 o'clock. So that kind of stuff, that's the kind of support we're looking for. And it's not, and what's really cool, I think is really what I'm excited about is that people in California know who we are. They know about Randolph County. They know about Union City, Indiana, and that's really cool. We're on the map, and I think that we should be very proud of that. So, yeah. So it's not just here. That 200,000 is across the 250,000 is across the board.
Tell us a little more about outreach. What does your outreach consist of? What activities? And
Yeah, very good question. The first issue is that we want to find the population of 1,400,000 veterans here. So our outreach goes into doctors' offices. It goes into hospitals. It goes into VSOs. It goes into American Legions, and we're talking about just the struggle that veterans have. I get the fact that the federal government needs to do better. But one of the things that being in this position has taught me is how much the community means to veterans. Vietnam's veterans have talked to me about this very, very bluntly and very, very openly. They said, when we came home from Vietnam, we didn't feel rejected by our government. We felt rejected by our community, by our neighbors, by our families, by our employers. And what's really powerful about that is that they didn't serve because of the government. They served because of their love for the very people who rejected them. Now, that's really powerful, right? And that's said to you for a reason. I want to tug on your heartstrings. I'll be very blunt with you. But even today, when veterans come home, they don't know how to engage their community. It's time for us to learn how to engage them. I have a nephew, my brother's oldest son. He's in the Air Force, Captain Adam Solomon. He just received the Silver Bronze Star for his service as the Air Traffic Control Commander for the Kabul Airport during the evacuation in just a couple months ago. He came home and told the story. Now, to you and I, this is a story. You got to understand, veterans experience what they experience on an emotional level, and they don't know how to tell people about what's going through their head. Do you remember in the news at one point there was a bombing at the gate of the airport? You know where Captain Adam was? He was right in the middle of a meeting with a Taliban minister who was taking over control of the airport. And he was trying to brief this minister on how to run an airport. And when the bomb went off, guns came out, everyone was yelling, and he said, I had no idea whether I was going to live or die in a matter of seconds. Now, that's tragic, right? That's hard. He comes home, and how does he tell his wife what that was like? How does he engage his neighbor in that? That's where he's going to struggle, and that's where we as citizens need to understand it's okay to go talk to them. So our outreach effort is, we know the factors, we know what it's like, we know how to work with veterans, let us educate you, and then we will help you find them. Then the outreach services there is that once we find a veteran, we'll start wrapping all the community partners we know around them. We have hundreds of community partners, and we have like 87 partners that we work with just in Randolph County, that we'll begin to wrap those services out around them and get them the services that they need. An example of is that we got a call from a VSO locally about a Vietnam veteran that was just diagnosed with cancer. Had no real problems, no real issues, but right after the diagnosis, you can imagine how overwhelmed he felt with appointments and this and that, and he just felt stuck. And he's sitting in the VSO's office saying, I have no idea what to do next. I'm just too overwhelmed. I just want to go home and people leave me alone, and I want to die. And the VSO called us and said, hey, can you help this veteran? And the first thing we did is that we started transporting to his medical appointments. Then our veteran support services, our clinical manager and a veteran navigator started to work with him on harm reduction issues. And we started to connect him with, he was working sporadically with Reed Oncology. We got him hooked up with the VA CBOC in Richmond, and we got him hooked up with another service and another service. And his comment to us was, I know that I'm not walking this journey alone anymore, and I feel better. And that's what we do. Now, I can't predict for you what would have happened to him, but I know he doesn't feel alone anymore. And I know that he is using our services on a regular basis. We got to find more of those veterans. There's more of those veterans in this community that are lost that we can find and we can help. If we have the funds to do so, because there is no funding from anywhere for outreach. I love your questions. You can ask more.
Anything else, guys?
Father-in-law, dad, grandpa, uncle. Your dad. Your family that served?
Yeah, but not here.
Okay. Family that served? 20 grand. That's my potential proposal, unless, if we can utilize ARP funds, because I know we need that to go to causes like this. And I've got a 91-year-old grandpa. Fortunately, he had a bunch of kids and grandkids, so we take him to appointments. But for the people that don't have that, and they live here, I want them to be welcome. So
I like that.
I'm totally on board. I was gonna say more than what he was asking for too, so.
I'm just speechless. I want to wait and just thank you. That'd be awesome.
Well, do I hereby hear that in the form of a motion?
I move that we donate $20,000 to the Journey Home in Winchester, Indiana.
I second the motion.
We have a first and second, Jan, and to be utilized through ARP funds, is that what you're
Yes.
recommending?
Basically said, what I'll tell you is that we have over almost 4,000 visits to our homepage every year. City of Union City's logo will go on our homepage and stay there for
If you have anybody that ever want out and want to just walk around the park or want to do some community help, contact that guy right there. He'll get him set up with a golf cart and sticky things. And we'll drive him over. But now here, we've set the bar high, Mr. Commissioner, so make sure the county delivers too.
Jan, if you would roll call vote.
Just a question, is that okay to use ARP funds for that?
Yeah, actually it is, because it's for outreach.
It's literally
among other
designed
things.
for that.
Yeah, so it's among other things, it absolutely qualifies.
And he
for
clearly made the
our-
point there was a connection between
because-
COVID and the reduction in their funds.
Okay.
Mental health was a clear indicator for
Okay.
it. Yeah. So, but good question.
And is it Tito?
Yes.
I gave the number that 45% are struggling from mental illness. I would say that if not 100%, we're real close to all the veterans that we come into our facility we go out in the community, we transport are struggling with some kind of mental illness issue, substance abuse misuse, substance abuse disorder, PTSD, those kind of things. So it's a very high number.
Question, do you live in Randolph County?
I live in Winchester, downtown.
I was gonna say, if not, we're gonna recruit you.
Well,
Good at what you do.
and the PTSD leads to all those other factors, leads to the
Right.
substance abuse,
Yes.
leads to all the other issues, and
Tim, I just can't. I'll start getting really emotional. But in 2020, we lost 2 veterans to opioid overdose. One of them was in our facility. Both of them died in our facility. Both of them came to our facility because nobody else would help them. They had been kicked out of every facility across the state and in the region. Nobody else would help them, and they so desperately wanted to kick this habit. Both of them dealt with heavy combat issues. Both of their parents said, when my son came home, he was not the same person and never got over it. Both of those never really, it wasn't a suicide attempt, but the demons are so bad and so hard, and they feel so isolated that the overdose, the addiction started to cope, and then it turned into, so when you talk about PTSD and addiction, you're talking about 2 separate issues.
Yeah.
I'm a mental health counselor, so I can help you with addiction, work through that process, but when you're using that addiction to cope with your demons, that becomes a much more challenging piece. And I've talked to my brother, I've talked to my nephew. That was a traumatic event at that moment, and he's got to figure out how to process that and feel connected to his community, and his wife and his family, his neighbors is a real support of that. And one of the reasons why one of the ways that we discovered how important the community is that the reason why we can keep our kitchen doors open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no other residential facility does that. Food will kill your budget. Is because the community brings that food to us. They bring it to us, and the veterans know that. If you're to walk in there and you're welcome any time, and you're to ask them, what do you love about the journey home, they'll say 1 or 2 things first, the staff, and then they'll say, I get to eat what I want and when I want, and this community is amazing, and they love the fact that they're loved. And that is the biggest thing that the Journey Home does is that we let veterans know they are loved by those they served, and that means everything to them. Everything to them.
Eldon, will you do us a favor and put on your calendar to come like once every other year?
I'll come every month.
Whether we're out here, well, just because this is televised, so there's a lot of people that I'm hoping that we're reaching that aren't here. But I know I've had multiple friends and family members go through different things, and we have our family. But if you don't have family or the family turns on you, we want to make sure we can support.
You set the bar pretty high, Nathan, so I might come every year. But no, I think there are, I told Mayor Chad Spence that there are 2 agendas here. One, I want to create awareness.
Yep.
And I can come twice a year to tell you how we're doing. I have no problem doing that. And my board members know, and they hear me talk. I don't care. I'll talk and I'll talk and I'll talk, and you probably have to come and shut up pretty quickly.
Do you 2 communicate?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yeah, we have.
In fact, we're friends. And,
Good.
And on one of his fundraising boards, so yeah.
Do you know Mallory Stevenson, Child Advocacy Group?
Mm,
I was trying to see if there was a tie, but you two would be able to network and utilize some different resources. And
So you're gonna give me your card and we'll have a conversation?
I've got your number written down. I'm gonna
Okay,
text
so
you
you're
in a
gonna
little bit.
call, you're gonna call me? Good, we'll sit and talk.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Jan, you wanna go and do the roll call vote?
Brandon Elmore,
Yes.
Um,
Bob Leahy,
Yes.
Nathan Conklin,
Yes.
and Heiss.
Yes.
Peter Frias.
Yes.
Eldon, thank you so much.
God bless you all.
Likewise. And thank you on many more levels than just coming here to present. So, thank you for everything you do.
It's one of the funnest jobs I've ever had in my life.
Thank you.
All right, I really don't wanna follow that.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I got you. Department reports, if you saw a picture of me on Friday with, standing in front of Vision Corner, the very distinguished looking gentleman, Dr. McCollum. He's the new chancellor of Ivy Tech in Richmond. That was obviously we met because he's new to his position, but he reached out to me, was wanting to meet with me. He's been meeting with mayors and other dignitaries in the area, but he's also excited with Vision Corner because he was brought into the loop immediately from the powers that be at Ivy Tech in Richmond because in our negotiations for the post-secondary education on the second floor of Ivy Tech and in the back of the first floor of Ivy Tech, or Vision Corner I should say, I reached out to our industry heads, including Workhorse and Frank Miller, and asking them, okay, these are the course offerings that Ivy Tech could offer from a post-secondary standpoint. What, if anything, aligns to what your needs are with your current workforce and with those you hope to bring in? And I got response back immediately. And so I sent those on to Ivy Tech, and then that begets the conversation and what we're trying to establish in the back of the first floor and the second floor itself of Vision Corner for meeting workforce needs in this area and for our industry. So he was giddy because we've got a great opportunity there. And Ready, speaking of Vision Corner, the Ready Grant, I know Sienna Bales, head of our Randolph County United, she presents to the folks at, on the IEDC, I say that right? So many acronyms, abbreviations. She presents to them on Friday. Of course, Vision Corner is the #1 project that she's putting forth, and $400,000 in play there, so that's a significant thing. And they're just doing their due diligence and their homework because obviously the region received $15 million. We were ranked the top project in the region, but now we get into the nuts and bolts of the details of, okay, show us your plans and what you have money accumulated, what you intend to have, what you're doing when, and what your timeline is. And we're in very good position because like the timeline for completion of the project was at 2025 or 2026?
25.
25. And Vision Corner's first floor slated to be done at the end of this year, and then the second floor to be done at the end of next year. So we're way ahead of schedule in that regard, and as far, including the funds we've raised too, like through rural development. So, so anyway, that's a heads up on that. The rail tower, just a heads up, the sashes are coming out, but you won't see them because they're boarded up. They're behind the boards. They're coming out and getting worked on. The glazing will be done, glass being replaced, and
That's happening Wednesday.
Wednesday, excellent, excellent. So because we need to have the facade of the rail tower complete April 14th, so that's the date we're working towards, so we can get that done, and then Goodhue get in and get the roof put on, which they're doing out of their graciousness of their own hearts too, like they did the covered bridge. Community Christmas update. If you still see some trees left apart, it's because the stakes are frozen in the ground. I went out there even with pliers and some, and you end up pulling the ring off the stake, and so the stake's still in there, but the ring's go. So we intermittently get those lights down as the weather turns, and so Wednesday we're hoping to get some more work done. About 65% of the trees are stored, maybe 70% are stored now. The infrastructure bidding for the Plum Street housing development is literally open right now, is currently underway. And you guys should have the bids to review and to vote upon at the last meeting in February 28th. So that's the goal there. Something I'm gonna share with you guys real quick, a meeting I have this Thursday morning at 9 o'clock in Peru. And just to set it up, as you know, we received a $500,000 Blight Grant. And if you guys, once you're done with this, if you don't take it home, please leave them, because that way I don't have to make more copies for Thursday. Blight Grant obviously is a great thing because it allows us to remove blighted structure. But the bad thing is, if you don't have a plan in behind it, you've got an open lot. And I'm sure if I start asking, like Bob Lay, when did the Grand Theater burn?
Oh, I don't know.
See, I could ask you questions now.
Maybe 1980.
What's that?
Maybe 1980. Maybe.
It's actually a little bit later than that, because I remember having pizza or breadsticks in it, pizza when I was in high school.
85 then.
Where's the Grand Theater? Help me here.
It's
The one over here.
Big open lot across from the bank parking lot, yeah. It's safe to say early 90s for sure. So bare minimum, it's been about 30 years. And then if you look where Jenny's shirt shop was, you look at where the dungeon was. Anybody familiar with the old days that Bob, you remember the dungeon? That was, yeah, Tito remember the dungeon, yeah.
It was King's True Value Building at one time.
Oh, mercy, I didn't know that.
Yep.
So you just dated yourself, you shouldn't say that.
Well, I didn't know we were going to have a test today. While we were studying.
But a moment of levity, just to prove a more stark fact, is that these spots, unfortunately they don't get rebuilt upon anytime quick. And so the challenge becomes, okay, if you have an open lot, how do you make use of it? And so I know one word that you guys are fond of, which is the F word, and free. Let me clarify. You like free. That is the F word I'm referencing. The rail cars, these two rail cars, they're passenger rail cars in Peru, Indiana, that we've had. Some of you may know already that we had discussion amongst different folks in the communities, like, would you consider putting a rail car downtown? And lo and behold, these two cars are potential freebies for us if Thursday's meeting goes well. On top of that, we have the commitment from Workhorse for the restoration for the rail cars. They've got March and April they can give to us. So if Thursday's meeting goes well, we will be looking to obtain these at the price of $0, bring them in, store them on the west end of the depot, and that's where they would be refabbed. And then once finished, we'd park one down here on the corner, and then the other one would stay on the west side of the depot. And this one down here in the corner we'd actually use for it. We originally were going to place this gentleman in Vision Corner, but negotiations and talks have taken off so well with Vision Corner, and our funding has been coming through. We've been very blessed with that. That we're going to have an executive director in there. When I say we, I'm not saying you guys. It's not going to be on the city payroll, but the facility itself, and Vision Corner is a 501c3. They're going to be looking to hire an executive director to help run that facility and oversee it, because it's going to be rather bustling with activity. So there's not going to be a place for Steve. And we don't have, if you guys have been through our offices, we have no place here. We already have our assistant to the clerk treasurer working in what should be a closet,
Copy room.
Yeah, exactly. So we have an opportunity to put the city manager / like welcoming center, if you will, in this railroad car in the corner. And on the last page, we would put a plaque up, have a plaque up next to the corner that would actually recognize the prominence of the rail history in Union City, and then tie in these two cars. Because in negotiation, or talks I should say, with the gentleman up there in Peru, there's even speculation one of these cars might have passed through Union City at one point in time.
I'm sure.
So, yeah, because passenger cars were rather commonplace in Union City, actually. So that's the scoop on that. I just wanted to bring you guys in the loop again. We're trying to navigate in manners that help brand the community, that help fill space in an inviting way, in an eye-catching way, but absolutely an affordable way. So, because the last thing we need is an open lot. And we're fortunate, like down on the corner where by Joe's Corner Florist used to sit, we already have construction plans, not we, the owner of that property has construction plans to put up a restaurant there. So that's a blessing, but that's the exception, not the rule. So, then going further along, the Rock House, Brandon, great job Saturday, and I know Tito, God bless you, Tito's almost always there too, and he had family commitments, obviously, and so we had volunteers show up, and the slated date for that completion of that house is August. So, and I'm more excited about this one than I was the first one, because this one will be a bigger, this one will be a bigger transition in terms of the eye-popping appeal of it, you know, what it will look like. And Tito and Brandon have been afforded opportunities to see their rendering of the finished product, of what the project managers have proposed, which is Joyce Hayes is the project manager. And
she's doing an excellent job.
She's doing phenomenal.
I think the night and day difference between this project and last is that we have a plan.
Yep.
The plan is on track, and
Yep.
you know she's running a tight ship, and that's what's going to make the difference here.
Yep.
So it will
Part
be.
of starting something new, you gotta hit your knees a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely was the case. I mean, we learned a lot of lessons.
We learned, we're like, how many times we say, well, we're never doing that again. I mean, not about the whole project, but like specific things.
Yeah.
Like, oh. But yeah, it's been a good learning opportunity. But at the same time, it's exciting because it's like this house has sat empty for, gosh, eons, and so it's awesome opportunity. And lastly, and this is a little bit of change of pace. I owe a public apology to this gentleman sitting in front of me, so I want to state it publicly to you because I feel awful. We recently had we've been blessed beyond measure to have an outstanding, what was police chief and then city manager in Monty Poling. And it fell on my shoulders, I shouldn't say fell on my shoulders, but I ended up being the one to try to navigate the, like a party, a celebration for him. And Bob, as sure as I say here, I sent that email out to everybody I thought of to contact, and you should have been on that email form. And I would have sworn to God you were on the email form, and you were not. And that's my fault. I dropped the ball there, and Bob has been not only a great ally of Monty's and a great supporter and a good friend, but you know it goes both ways there, and so I felt horrible because Bob wasn't at the get together for all the people that were invited that I knew were connected to Monty in some way, shape, or form on a fairly close level. You know. It's one of those deals you can't win sometimes when you have parties because you've got to draw the line somewhere. You can't invite half the nation, but at the same time you've got to try to reach. And I did send an email out to folks, hopefully Steve will test this. I said, help me, you know, name anybody I'm missing. Who do I need to send this to? And so that was the oversight on my part. So my apologies. So
Accepted.
Well, thank you. It's very gracious of you.
But Monty and I have reached a, what would you call it? Anyway, I reached out to him and he responded. We have no problems.
Cool. Well, good. Well, you shouldn't with each other. You should have a problem with me.
No, I wasn't even going to bring it up again because, you know.
Well, again, my apologies, but
Monty and I we're good.
Yeah, he's like I said,
we've been good for a long time.
Yeah, he's something special. So really appreciate him.
Did he offer to share his leftover steak with you? Because I know he had to take some of that home.
Well, now see, I didn't know he had leftover steak.
Thanks a lot, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Gentry, it was 32 ounces or bigger.
Yeah, we didn't get any of it either.
Maybe I take back that.
Yeah, I asked Darby if they could add that to the menu, and he said the butcher said this is a one-off. I will not do it again.
Yeah, no kidding. Holy smoke. Department heads, I think we're clear there. So, Jan, do you have anything? No. And council members, Brandon, let's start with you.
The only thing I have is, it looks like there's a legislative update that's coming up on February the 19th at 9 a.m. where J.D. Prescott and Jeff Rotz will be present, and this is over in Winchester. Looks like the Houston Hall, the Bestway Center, over on US 27. You know, there's been if anybody's talked to an educator, as of late, there's been a heated discussion about House Bill 1134. So that's something to really kind of keep your eyes on if you have educators in the family, if you got kids in school.
What was the date and time again?
It's February 19th at 9 a.m.
And where was that again?
So at the fairgrounds.
Yeah, the fairgrounds.
You said hall.
And just a little bit, I guess, about House Bill 1134. The famous Indiana author Kurt Vonnegut, he used to use the metaphor that artists are like canaries in the coal mine. And what he means by that is they're more sensitive to what's going on around them in society. And if you don't understand the metaphor with what a canary in a coal mine is, it used to be in the 1900s, the early 20th century, miners used to take canaries down into the coal mines. And as long as they were chirping and didn't keel over, they knew there wasn't poisonous gases in the air, the carbon monoxide and what have you. And I think in this instance, we've got some educators that are really kind of being the canaries in the coal mine here for us. This House bill, from my analysis and others, it really seems to, instead of denouncing racism, sexism, and discrimination based on sexual orientation and stuff like that, in those regards, it's allowing the perpetuation of it, and it's really concerning. I think I think there's some other folks here who've had some very similar thoughts about this House bill, and it's very disappointing that a representative in our community who's representing us are authors of this bill, and it's making its way through the House. So I just hope that we have a turnout and voice our concerns, and that our representatives can actually hear us, because J.D. Prescott and Jeff Ratz have had meetings at Randolph Eastern, and it sounds like a lot of what these educators are voicing is falling on deaf ears with these folks, and we need to make our voices heard.
The date of that is again?
Next Saturday at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
Which is February
19th.
And the location?
The Bestway Center, the fairgrounds. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm going to tangent off of that. I wasn't bringing it up, but I was trying to go to that meeting, and the public were forbade from going.
At Randolph Eastern.
And that is
Well, there's a reason for that.
a little offensive.
There was a reason
Yes.
for that. It was going to be.
You don't think we could get by with that?
Well, no,
I didn't mean.
they're not obligated to have a
No,
public
they're
meeting
not.
either in
They're
such a
Well,
way.
I'm
But
a father of children, I'm a citizen, and I'm a city council member that the school and cities work hand in hand a lot. To get some clarification, I've personally read the bill like 3 times, and there's some questions that I have. And yes, my wife is a teacher, but I said, all right, sweetie, sorry, whatever you're being told through the megaphone that's talking to you, let's read it. So we both sat down and read it, and there's still some issues and questions and clarification that I don't want my kids going to the school system if this is how it's going to happen. It is falling on deaf ears, because we've reached out to multiple people and are not getting calls or emails or return back.
Well,
Sorry,
the
I
reason-
wasn't going down that tangent. Brandon, you opened the door.
the reason I responded the way I did is that I have a source. Now, I'm not going to go into detail on this at all, but I have a source that basically there was more or less a planned ambush, and I'm sure word got back, and that's why that was reined in.
Well, there were supposed to be at least multiple resources. We have KISS TV. There's potential news outlets that could
I
have
know.
gone and asked questions. Unfortunately, the
These all would have been constituents.
But-
I mean,
But what I'm saying,
of
and
this
that's not the
representative.
only, that's not the only source of of a public meeting. Obviously, the 19th, there's a public meeting that's invited this way, and that wasn't what, I don't think that's what the intention of that particular meeting was, to be an open public meeting about it. It was an informational for,
To my knowledge,
for a group.
This public meeting next Saturday is accordance with all the people that were ticked off that couldn't go
Well, I
last
realize
Friday.
that, yeah,
And
yeah.
So, Brandon, appreciate you sharing that with us. Anything else that,
No, that's all I had.
okay. No, that's it.
I didn't have any.
Nate?
happy Valentine's Day. That's all I got.
Tim?
I don't have anything.
Tito?
Yeah, just wanted to do a little bit of follow-up. Were you able to nominate new members for the Board of Public Works?
Yeah, well, we still have one opening. We have one opening to fill, so we have 4 of the 5 filled. So,
Okay.
yeah, Delia,
Baysinger.
Basinger, thank you. Delia Basinger is a new addition to the board.
And a good.
Yeah, and a good one, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And of course, we still have Tim and Bob, and then Steve, in accordance with the regulations or guidelines, is my fill for the Board of Works. So we have one other person to name.
No, you have one over the person to name, because it is appointed at the mayor's discretion.
I appoint the 5th one too, but I mean, he's actually, the mayor or city appointed person, such as the city manager, has to fill, so.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's-
Basically, in my opinion, people have entrusted you and elected you as mayor, so they should trust and believe that everything that you are doing is in the best interest for the community.
I appreciate that.
As for all of us up here, that is our duty and responsibility.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and I was excited to have Delia on there because I want representation. I do want that. I want that representation across the board. I know people, I know Tim's been on there a long time, but anybody knows Tim knows he's a godsend because he's so knowledgeable about. I mean, Tim's one of those guys, not to put you on the spot, Tim's one of those guys that's like Rain Man with it's section 3.5, I'll say, I mean, but seriously, you have that kind of background that is absolutely a blessing, and you're very methodical in your thinking. And then Bob Gentry, I don't know if folks in this community realize, Bob has served with, is the FBI, right?
Yeah, well, I was a clerk.
Clerk.
When I was going to college, that's the way I paid tuition.
Well, hey, but you've got vast experience is what I'm trying to say.
Oh,
And I was gonna say, you've
I
got.
didn't get this gray hair by accident.
but that brings a lot of wisdom, and that's a blessing. So, I mean, again, we want a diverse pool. We want youth, we want veterans, we want male, we want female, we want minority, we need it all. So all voices are heard, so I appreciate that. Sorry, go ahead.
So anyway, just continuing, what is the status of resolution 2022 R02 approving the residential housing plan? We tabled it last meeting, and I don't see it on the agenda.
It still can't come up until after the 25th.
All for the TIF, yeah, okay, yeah, thank you.
We're
it'll
waiting
be
on
It'll be on the next.
a county meeting. Steve,
Oh, okay.
can you remember what meeting?
It's February 22nd for
February 22nd.
area planning. Then we'll open the bids on Friday the 25th, and then we'll have a council meeting on the 28th. So we should be able to make lots of decisions on the 28th.
Bring bottles of water.
That's all I had.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
thank you.
we do.
Braden did send me an update, and let me read that to you. Want to make sure everyone's aware that our very successful Bring Up Your Grades program for Mr. Tipple. Said he tried it at Monroe Central and only say 10% kids participating, but when he tried it here in Union City, we had over 85% of all students bring up grades or maintain and throughout the semester. It was very successful in getting more kids involved with academics. Wednesday also would like to say, or we'd also like to congratulate Ellie O'Connor. She won sectionals in 2 swimming events, allowing her to advance to state to compete for Union City swim team. It was a fantastic journey for the junior, and we're looking forward to certainly to seeing what will come from that. And then lastly, he said we'd like to encourage people to go to Brayden reach out to you before you come to the meeting?
Oh, he's talking about the same thing?
No, absolutely. He said, we'd like to encourage people to go to community meeting with J.D. Prescott at the 4-H Fairgrounds in Winchester on Saturday to show support for the teachers with Bill 1134. So yeah, that's literally, if everybody wants to see it, that's straight from Mr. Hoggett, Brayden Hoggett, our student representative of City Council. So yeah, that's our student input. Old business, we have ordinance 2022-02, which is the purchasing on the second reading.
Can you give us a refresher? I believe this is the up to $5,000.
Yes, this was the compromise on the amount. So
2,500.
2,500, actually, yeah, 2,500.
Yeah.
That's what was passed on the first reading. So
No,
that's,
I didn't flip through my pages.
that's what you see here before you. If there are no questions or comments, I would entertain a motion for approval.
I'll move that we adopt ordinance 2022-02, purchasing on second reading.
We have a first and we have a second.
I'll second.
We have a first and second by title only. Jan, if you would, roll call vote.
Brandon Elmore,
Yes.
Bob Leahy.
Yes.
Nathan Conklin.
Yes.
Jim Heiss,
Yes.
Tito Frias.
Yes.
And then new business, we have the conflict of interest forms.
Yeah, there's 5 in there, from employees that have, it's just stating their conflict of interest with the city, because they do work for the city and they're also employees of the city, so it's just making that known.
Yep.
So I need approval on those. And that's it.
I do have a question about conflict of interest.
Sure.
For conflicts of interest that involve goods and services applied to the city, do we have a system for regularly double checking to make sure that the city is getting the best deal? I mean, sure, we want to buy local, but we also want to use our resources wisely. But most importantly, if there are more than one suppliers of the same items or services, then we should be periodically checking to see that we're getting the best deal. Yeah, we just want to be fair to all, at least all of the Union City suppliers of goods and services.
Do you have something that you could explain example-wise? Because I don't know of 2 different companies in town that do 2 of the same thing.
Other than service the vehicles.
Okay.
Because we kind of move that, seems like we move the servicing of the vehicles around, maybe to Smith's or Livingston or
And Ackerman's.
Ackerman's, yes.
So I think we.
The one thing comes to my mind, I know with like hardwares and goods, I know with Montana, we have Didier, if you look at the service, I mean, the claims, you'll see those both repeatedly. Auto parts, I don't know of anything beyond Napa. I know Napa's utilized a lot, but I don't know of anything beyond Napa. And the challenge becomes, and I agree, we should always go for the best price. And then in respect to the department heads, they do fervently try to do that because it stretches their budget further when they get better deals and stuff. But the challenge on a lot of projects they're working on is they're not necessarily able to leave town, because then it's not as fruitful to go to Greenville or Winchester for a lot of the smaller things they need. Bigger items, obviously, those normally go to bid. In terms of like equipment. Trying to think, is there anything else that we might be missing that we're not thinking about? Is there anything else that comes to your mind?
Well, I mean, some of the organizations I've worked with in the past, you know, we would have a supplier that would supply like office supplies, and we always purchase from them. But then, like once a year or once a semester, we would send out pro formas for sort of a basket, like a list of the things we normally buy, just to compare. And occasionally we would change suppliers that way. Just, you know, that's the kind of thing that was crossing my mind that hopefully that we're doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't know if there's something.
I would confidently say that the department heads are doing that on a very regular basis. We're constantly looking for better ways to skin the cat, so to speak, and stretch our budget dollars. It's kind of managed by individual departments. We don't buy really anything but big purchases together, multiple departments, so day-to-day consumables and supplies that we go through. I think we are doing that. I know Jan does that with all of our office supplies. I mean, that's really the only thing we turn into you to order is the office supplies. So, we use local vendors every chance we get, so, and we're buying bulk, toiletries and cleaners and disinfectants and things like that. I'm under contract with medical supplies, so we check that with different contract vendors every year. J&B Medical's got the best deal. I would be shocked if there's something that we're not buying appropriately. Just because we have to stretch our dollars as far as we can.
Right.
Thank you.
No, good question though. Is there any other questions?
Do we need to vote on the conflict of interest?
Yeah, I was wondering, was this part of that? I mean, I didn't know, or was it just something that came up?
Something that came up in tangent.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
No, you're good. So yeah, we just need approval of these, do we not, Jan, as they're
Yes,
submitted?
I just need the council to.
I move that we approve conflict of interest forms that has been reviewed and approved with no issue. The 5 or 6 that we have looked at and reviewed.
We have a motion? We have a second?
I'll second.
We have a first and second. Jan, if you would roll call vote.
Brandon Elmore,
Yes.
Bob Leahy.
Yes.
Nathan Conklin.
Yes.
Tim Heiss.
Yes.
Stephen Freas.
Yes.
All right, any visitors wishing to address council?
I got one thing.
Oh, let's see. Oh, did I skip you, didn't I?
Skip it.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
See, Bob, you're
Yeah.
still
Join the club, Steve.
Oh, Lord. Sorry.
You skipped Jan too, so.
No, Jan did say she never
Oh,
did.
she did say it.
I just assumed you didn't either.
Real quick, you guys basically gave me permission to order the UTV at the last council meeting. After further research, it's actually a little bit more expensive to buy it locally when you consider the implements that we were looking at adding to the piece of equipment. And then plus that's complicating the service and the maintenance and the upkeep of the implements and the equipment, because now instead of going to one vendor, I'm multiplying that by 3 or 4, 5 different vendors for all the implements and the attachments. So that being said,
I was gonna say, to simplify it, Polaris are more of a fun vehicle, and the Kubota is designed for this.
Correct. Now, the only question I have 2 different quotes, and I'm in just an attempt to be completely transparent and us doing this once and then being done. We can equip the machine to be hydraulic or PTO driven, one or the other. If we do hydraulic, we save a little bit of money on the front side. We can do a snow plow, we can do the salt box, we can do the power broom, we can do all those things. If we do the PTO, we can do all those same implements, but we could also add the snow blower. The snow blower, as Brad and I are talking this conversation, and now it's also stretched out to bring the school into conversation. The snow blower, I think, may be better than the snow plow, for the simple fact that doing sidewalks, creating corridors for our school kids to walk to and from school. 20 years ago, the homeowners shoveled their sidewalks. They're not doing that anymore. We've got hundreds of kids every day walking in the streets because they can't get on the sidewalks. I'm not saying it's the city's responsibility or the schools to create corridors for the kids to get to and from school, but I think it's in our best interest to take a look at that. I think the snow blower option is a better fit for that than the snowplow or the blade. I think creating walk trails in the park just around the walking path, I think the machine can go out and do that in a very short period of time with a snow blower. It actually will blow the snow out of the way. So I guess big question, we're still planning on buying this, splitting it between 6 different departments. To buy the PTO driven machine is all total is $42,512.06. And if the school buys a sister unit, a twin, we would save $800 per device. The school's it's gotta go to the school board, so on and so forth, but
Per device, like you mean full unit?
complete. That's snow blower, that's the power broom, that's the salt box.
So like
Set up,
800
ready to
off
go.
of each one of those?
Correct.
Okay, I thought you were saying 800 on each machine. I'm like, 800 on 42 grand, what do you do?
Yeah, it's not a lot.
I
Now,
thought he was
now,
saying
now
that.
keep in mind, we're already getting the municipal price on the machine. So instead of the machine costing $22,549, we're paying $20,501 for the machine itself. So setting it up, I think,
He's 42 is on.
I think setting it up to be as efficient as we possibly can, we should go to the PTO unit. Now, we don't have to buy all the attachments right away, but I would wanna set the system up for the PTO equipment.
So
So,
what's your total on the machine?
everything, snow blower, the salt box, and the power broom, PTO driven, is $42,512. That's everything.
Everything. with the-
Split between 6 departments.
I love
the
the
idea.
snow blower. Is the snow blower there too?
I love the idea of having something that can address the streets downtown too, because that's been lacking for a while in terms of when we get snows and it's.
Well, I normally like the hydraulic driven, I think you're right, the snow blower, with my experience, the snow blower is probably gonna be more usable than the blade, because where you could use the blade and the conditions you could use the blade, you can really use the broom.
Yes.
And when you consider, especially when you start talking about sidewalks in the residential areas in particular, the blade is gonna be
Right.
just about useless
Yeah,
because
it'll
of
be a
the
nightmare.
condition of the sidewalks.
Yeah.
And with moderate low snows, the broom actually will be efficient, but then for anything more major, more like this last event we've had, then the blower is gonna be the only real answer, cause you won't push it with the blade and you'll catch every sidewalk lip and so
Great
forth.
point.
Yeah.
But, for
And
the-
just
for
to
the
be
light
clear,
snows, the
for
broom's
everybody on
phenomenal.
Facebook, I'm not talking about the city cleaning every sidewalk in town. I'm talking about creating corridors for access for our kids to get to and from school.
Like the main street, like
Correct.
down Plum or down.
Yeah. Anybody that's been in the neighborhood south of the school at time when the kids are flowing, when there's snow and sidewalks are full, it's a little nerve wracking as a driver sometimes, just making sure that you're gonna be able to.
It's a little scary.
You gotta, I've just flat turned and gone and avoided areas because I knew the kids were trying to walk down there. I'm not gonna drive my 8.5 foot wide truck down these streets with kids trying to walk in these areas. I just stay away,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I imagine there's a lot of people that end up doing that too, so.
Recently I did that, I just turned and went the other way because I didn't wanna impede the kids.
Yeah. Yeah, so at least this might be a possible solution. And granted, this is something, it's one of those things where it's not like we get a lot of snow, but my golly, when we do, it's nice to have something that at least we can turn to. Help address it.
And this is, again, something that we're not going to be talking about payment or anything probably till fall. Cause once we order it, we're looking at probably 7 to 8 months delivery.
Well, and
Yeah.
we're also using it for snow, but if we have another event where there's a person lost,
Well, that's the other conversation. If the school goes ahead and does what they're talking about now, they would allow us access to that unit for emergencies also. So in theory, we would be able to double our search efforts or our rescue efforts, in that capacity. So,
When's the school board vote, do you know?
I'm not really sure, maybe this Thursday. I gotta get this information to Aaron, so, is it this Thursday?
That's the next school board meeting.
Yeah, so Thursday. So basically, I would just like your guys' thumbs up to go ahead and get something ordered after it goes to the school board. We'll either be ordering one or we'll be ordering two. If we order two, I gotta work out that with Jan because technically, the company has to bill one entity, whether it's the school or the city, then the city or the school's gotta pay each other. But I'm confident we can work all those snags out. So they are giving us the municipal price, and then they are giving us a multi-unit discount on top of that, if the school purchases one.
So was the 42 with the $800 unit discounts?
If you count the $800, it's $41,712.06. That's if we buy two.
That escalated quickly.
Yeah.
Well, and again, I mean, just for explanation, the cargo box salt and sand spreader is $38.81. We don't have to order that right away. We can order that later. The rotary broom is $35.48.01. We can order that later. The snow blower is $38.72.63. We can order that later. We can part and piece that stuff out, but everything else in that price is setting the machine up to accommodate all those attachments.
Okay.
So it's not going to be the $20,000 if we set it up to be PTO driven.
What was the cost difference between the PTO and the hydraulic?
The hydraulic one with the blade, the cost of the machines are exactly the same.
Yeah.
The cost with the blade, the salt box, and the power broom, hydraulic driven, is $37,941 versus $42,512.
So it's not.
And that, the PTO one is the Kubota?
They're both Kubotas.
They're both
The hydraulic one does not have the ability to run a snowblower. That has to run
Right,
on the
right.
PTO.
I was thinking we were still doing like Polaris Kubota.
But Polaris, again, just to simplify the conversation with the Polaris, I was going to be dealing with 4 or 5 different vendors based on the amount of the attachments that we bought over time. And from a maintenance standpoint, from warranty work, from whatever, that's just a nightmare. One piece is coming from Canada, one's coming from Arizona, it's just.
Well, I'd venture to say it'd be unlikely to not have some conflict between attachment points on that.
Oh, we
that,
absolutely know that
where,
that's going to be an
where
issue.
you get into where the brackets and mounts that you have for one are
Totally different.
causing a problem for the, totally different and causing a problem if you don't have it, because the Kubota's gonna have the same attachment points and use, you know, the quick attach setup that's gonna work between implements. Whereas if you've got different implements, they all have different systems.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare. It's unfortunate that they haven't standardized that with the Polaris units.
Yeah.
But,
It shouldn't shock us though. Anybody who's been through just owning a cell phone knows that you're always buying different chargers and different size plugs and everything from time to time.
I would at least, if everybody's so inclined to do this, I would at least suggest that we would order the machine and the broom, initially. If we're gonna not order the whole package, at least order the machine and the broom, because I think that regardless, the broom's gonna be utilized.
I think that'll be 75% of its work.
Yeah.
I think so.
And So that would be my suggestion as far as.
All lights, no work, and
Did Board of Works have a conversation about this?
We talked about it.
You guys
I
are,
think we all were in agreement that this was unfortunate we can't do business here in town, but they
Yeah.
tried. And I've owned a Kubota and some other people have, and it'll be running when we're all gone. So, and it's still in Indiana. He's not going outside the state. So
We didn't take a vote on a
We didn't vote on it
recommendation
because
particularly.
too
so
much
we didn't-
money.
We didn't,
But I thought we were unanimous in
yeah, I think it felt.
in approving the idea.
And, you know, of all the equipment that we have, the more conversations that we're engaging in, this piece of equipment's going to assist with more and more things that's popping into everybody's heads on a regular basis.
So if we defer buying some of the pieces, how does that mechanically work? You know, when you go back and then want to buy the other ones, when it's split between the 6
I
departments?
just have to make a decision, well, we'll buy those attachments the same way we bought the machine, I'm sure.
Okay, and everybody's in agreement with doing that, you know, across the departments, okay?
Yep. I'm not worried about that so much as, you know, like for me, for the rescue side of it, I gotta have a slide-in unit fabricated for EMS. That's going to hold a Stokes basket. That's probably gonna cost me about $3,000, but there's no reason for Brad or anybody else to pay for
Yeah.
that because it's just going to be for my service. But everything else is gonna be universal and will be used in the park, it'll be used in the cemetery, it's gonna be used in, you know, the downtown, it's gonna be used on the sidewalks. So,
Oh, yeah, I think the broom will be used all
Yeah.
over,
Yeah.
including your
Mm-hmm.
facility, but, you know, what's your, you have a gut feeling about the school's, participation in this? You think that's gonna be
I think,
likely?
I think it's very likely. I don't wanna speak for the school board, but I think it's very likely. I know, Mr. Black thinks there's lots of positives with it. I know we had to assist them for the sectional tournament that they just hosted. I think some of their work would have been made a lot easier and a lot quicker if they had a device like this. I think they see the benefit.
I could see
I
a good
think-
fit for them year-round with
Yeah,
that.
I think the collaboration, you know, with us on doing sidewalk corridors and things like that, I think we do all those tasks twice as fast if we have like units.
hoping we're at the end of winter and we're not gonna see any more crazy winter blasts.
You just cursed us.
Thanks, Nate.
We-
Now
we-
the blizzard on Thursday is gonna hit us.
It's supposed to be all snow, but we can't get, this won't be here till October anyway, so this will
Yeah.
basically be
They're,
next
they're,
year's.
they're saying 7 to 8 months, so I'm saying September-ish.
Okay, if we were to, if you could potentially email that and we push this off to the next meeting and we see what the school board says, is that unreasonable?
No, I don't care when we order it. It's not going, I can't go there and pick it. I can't even go look at one.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at pictures.
If we're gonna do it, I think we need to get all the attachments to make sure we get as much discount as possible. And then,
Well, and the downside on not ordering the attachments at this point is that the wait, we're gonna be back to
Yeah.
playing the waiting game on the attachments.
So I think we're just gonna buy them anyway,
yeah,
instead of like
exactly.
point in time.
Yeah. Good point.
That's fine.
Would you mind emailing us all that so we have a copy of it?
That's fine. I'll do it.
Anything else?
Thoughts, questions? Mr. Mayor, as former councilman, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, collaborations, the school's just been, and I meant to say something earlier too, in support of our superintendent. Our school is phenomenal in terms of collaboration. They don't get enough credit for what they do with the community. Good grief, they're out there helping with lights, they're helping, we share fuel costs, you know, previous mayor did a great job getting that set up. Vision Corner, that's ahead of the game in terms of where other communities are, in terms of forward thinking. I mean, they're phenomenal. And so I love the idea of, getting insight from them. But make no mistake about it, I'm really in love with getting something, definitely doing something, because I feel bad every time I drive because we're trying to promote a community where you come down, have an experience in this community, and make it a walkable community, all that stuff. And then when I see snow, and it's like, I don't. My mom and dad are the age. They're not. I still view my mom and dad being young, but they'll tell me, we're old, but and they're in their mid-70s now, and so I think about them differently now, and when it snows, and I would like to have cleared sidewalks. So, and that's just one use of it. We talk about like State Line Heritage Days and stuff like, there's different things where you use the broom to sweep and stuff like that. I mean, there's other utilities for, that I think it would be handy, so. But yeah, I think that's sound logic.
I mean, ultimately, we're making downtown a better corridor, especially once Vision Corner is completed. There's gonna be a lot of people walking and going back and forth.
The plan would be from Howard, or basically from Chestnut Street up Howard to where the Elks is at, down to Union. All of those sidewalks, in his mind, need to be swept, maintained, no debris, all the landscaping in those areas need to be clean and fresh.
And I want to, I've talked to him too about our gutters.
Yeah.
Our gutters downtown, they need to be clean.
Yeah.
I don't want any debris down. I want our, and if you think about it, it's prudent to do that anyway, not only from an aesthetic standpoint and to promote a professional, clean atmosphere, but it's also to cut down on stuff going into our storm sewers.
Yeah.
I don't want that junk going down the, yes, sir.
I've lived in cities where they had signs that made parking illegal during the particular part of the night, and they would use the big sweeper,
Street sweeper.
and the gutters would be cleaned,
Yeah.
and that was done weekly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it was just that people knew that they couldn't park.
Yeah.
This is going to be a big part of our, we started with the ICE program this year. We have a young man that works with emergency services through the ordinance section, and this will be a big part of his daily task, that he'll be maintaining and cleaning the downtown corridor that I just described. And that will, and my emergency service guys will periodically be assisting with that, especially with snow removal, because that's not 8 a.m. or a noon to 3 when ICE students get released from school. That's, snow is going to be anytime it decides to snow. So, but this is, we're adding workload, but we're also creating positive, effective ways to address that. So I think there's lots of positives with the piece of equipment, and if we're fortunate enough that the school buys one, I think we can do it twice as fast.
Cool. Any other questions, comments? All right. I'm so sorry. Is there anything else you want to cover?
Nope, that's it.
Lord, people probably think, I bet he totally forgot his wife on Valentine's Day. No, I had something sitting on the dining room table this morning when she got up. So. The date of the next city council meeting is Monday, February 28th at 6 p.m. The same day will feature our Board of Public Works meeting. That's at 1 p.m. I would hereby entertain a motion for adjournment.
Chad,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to give you an update on our public service system towers.
Absolutely. Please do. And if you don't mind, please stand and state your name and who you're with. So, or and you can
Just sit
sorry.
down.
I was gonna say you can say Steve. Sorry.
Gary Gerton, I'm County Commissioner. Public service towers, we've been working on this system for 3 years. We finally, 2 weeks ago, got a 6-month licensing by the FCC. We've dealt with them for a year. We bought this equipment about a year and a half ago. Everything met FCC regulations, and then in October of last year, the FCC put this airway, which is designated for public safety, on hold. It wasn't issuing any licensing after we bought all this equipment. So we moved forward and continued. We now are finishing up the towers. They're supposed to finish them up this week. The installation of all the equipment. So our objective right now and our plan is to have the system at least up and operating on a basically a tentative basis by sometime at 1st of April.
Super.
So that'll let us communicate all throughout the county, hopefully very well.
Wonderful.
And hopefully we'll not have, well, next week they're gonna be testing all the equipment. They'll go to every part of the county and make sure that they have communication power there. Because we have, those of you that know, we have a number of places throughout the county which are dead places.
Yes, yeah.
And it's bothered me ever since I've been a commissioner that we would have an issue where someone was in dire need of help and they would come up with either seriously injured or killed because of our inability to get equipment put up in service to help them. And this new system hopefully will eliminate that.
Awesome. That is wonderful.
So we have just a 6 months licensing. I guess that's better than none.
Yeah, amen.
Because
Oh, man.
if they did take away the opportunity for us to be licensed in the bandits that we bought the equipment for, we were gonna have to take all that off the towers, sell it, and buy new equipment and put it back up there, which was gonna cost thousands and thousands of dollars. And it may still, we don't know that. We feel better that since we've got a license, that they're less likely to take it away from us
Right.
than they would be to, they have been all this time trying to. We went through different things in Indiana to try to get a temporary license, and the Attorney General asked that we were getting ready to go to the governor when the FCC finally come through with giving us a 6 months, so.
Excellent.
Hopefully we're there, and we're gonna help everyone in the emergency service area feel a little more safe when they're out on the road.
Wonderful.
Out of the areas and in the buildings.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes.
You can share news like that anytime. An excellent job to you and Mr. Troutman and Mr. Wickersham. This is a big undertaking, certainly,
Yes, it has been.
and appreciate your efforts, truly do. So, well, with that, I would hereby, is anything else? Okay, I would hereby entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We have a first, we have a second.
My second.
First, second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Meeting adjourned.